I think it's very important to first talk about one very big misconception people have. So Switzerland accounts for approximately 25% of worldwide cross-border wealth management. I like to show it as a triangle, as you can see here on the slide. There's three main parties.
Jamie Vrijhof-Droese is a well-acknowledged expert in the area of wealth management. She is a public speaker and writer. She has the overall. She advises a group of international clients pertaining to international diversification and asset protection. Jamie started her banking career back in 2009. Back then, she worked in different departments, including risk management, consumer finance, and also she worked for a boutique consulting firm. She co-authored a book, Swiss Money Secrets, and the book was published in 2018. It covers American clients as well, all the issues pertaining to the American clients and pertaining to the American bank accounts. Hand the floor to Jamie, and she will start out on her presentation.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Welcome, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here with all of you today. As Alexander already mentioned, I will be talking about how US citizens can profit from an offshore bank account. I only have 30 minutes in my workshop today, so I will just try to give you a brief top-down approach on how this all works. So it will be on a very high level. I will be providing further resources at the end of my presentation. So if you'd like to dig into any of the topics in more detail, you will have an opportunity to do that. And also, as usual, we end with a brief Q&A session. So if you have any burning questions about any of the topics I mentioned today, we can definitely have a more in-depth discussion there. So before we get going, I think it's very important to first talk about one very big misconception people have about offshore banking. When I tell people that I work in the field of offshore banking, a lot of people's eyes just widen open up and they look at me in shock and terror, because they just have all those negative headlines in their heads. They assume that offshore banking is something illegal, dirty, something immoral. And I think it's very important to just briefly cover that this is not the case. This is not how banking works anymore. The whole industry has developed quite a bit over the past decade. And offshore banking just simply refers to the fact of having a bank account outside of the country that you're living in and just doing banking basically across the border, which is also why it's called cross-border wealth management. And it is absolutely legal to do that. It is done in a compliant way. It has nothing to do with hiding anything. So people who have offshore bank accounts, they declare them to the tax authorities, they pay taxes. So there's a lot of valid and moral reasons why people would want to have bank accounts outside of their own home country. And we will talk about the most frequent reasons for doing that a bit later on in the presentation. But I just felt it's important to quickly note that it is an absolutely clean and legal solution for a lot of people out there. Now, the second point that's important to note is that there's a lot of countries who offer offshore banking. There's a lot of countries who have specialized in this kind of work. But me being based in Switzerland, I do believe that Switzerland has one of the best offerings for those kinds of services. And we can also see that in the numbers. So Switzerland accounts for approximately 25% of worldwide cross-border wealth management. So that means of all the money that is being managed outside of people's home country, 25% of it is managed in Switzerland. So that's a lot of money. And we also see that Switzerland is an extremely relevant financial center. It is the second largest center in Europe, and Zurich is on a worldwide scale number 10 with Geneva closely following on place number 14. So what's the reason that Switzerland is so good in cross-border wealth management? What makes it such an attractive jurisdiction? I think there's a lot of different topics and reasons why that is the case. And I could go on for hours about that, but I will try to just be very brief. So the first point is Switzerland's political neutrality, the economic stability of the country. We have a very low debt to GDP ratio, and we have very good laws protecting investors and clients. And then lastly, of course, Switzerland's experience in wealth management and banking is unmatched worldwide. So people in Switzerland started managing wealth in the late 18th century when they managed the money of wealthy European royal families. So there's no other country that has a similar kind of setup for cross-border wealth management. Now, moving on to why would people even want to move money offshore? Why would people want to move money outside of the country that they live in, outside of the currency that they think in? I would say there's four major reasons. Of course, there's some other reasons, but I want to focus on what the majority of our clients are looking for and why a lot of people come to our office. So the first is true international wealth diversification. If you work together with a person outside of your home country, this person can put together a portfolio that is a counterbalance to the portfolio that you already have in your home country. So for example, US investors often already are heavily invested in the US stock market and also in the US dollar. And by appointing someone in another country, you appoint someone who has a different kind of thinking, had a different experience, who has maybe a slightly different worldview and has different expertise when it comes to stock selection. So this is a very good opportunity to just add another layer of diversification to your portfolio and reduce the overall volatility to your wealth. Then, of course, a lot of people feel just safer if they have a nest egg in a safe financial jurisdiction like Switzerland. So if you're worried about, for example, the inflation in your country, if you're worried about the political development of your home country, if you're worried about the fiscal spending in your country, then it can make a lot of sense to think about diversifying your money into different countries and just have a safe nest site outside of your home country, something that you can access if something goes wrong, something that you can access if you are personally outside of your home country. Then a lot of people also use a Swiss bank account or an offshore bank account as part of their overall asset protection strategy. So maybe you have a domestic or an international trust and you would like to add an additional layer of asset protection. You can do so by including an offshore bank account to that structure. And then lastly, a protection against a devaluation of your home currency. So if we look at the development of the US dollar, and I've brought a slide with me here today that shows that over the past several decades, the US dollar has lost almost 80% of its value compared to a stable and safe currency like the Swiss franc. So if you're worried about a further decrease in the purchasing power of the US dollar, then it certainly makes a lot of sense to put together a portfolio outside of your home country that is denominated in a variety of different foreign currencies and that is not just denominated into the US dollar. So now that we have talked about offshore banking and the benefits of having an offshore bank account, you're maybe wondering why there's a need or an additional benefit of having an offshore wealth manager. Why can't you just move your money into another bank account outside of your home country? And here again, I have brought four main reasons for what the benefit of an offshore wealth manager is. So oftentimes banks don't have a specialized focus on US or foreign clients. So Swiss and European private banks usually only work together with US clients if they come through an SEC, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission, through an SEC registered investment advisor. This ensures to them that the people who are managing the money understand US customs, US rules and regulations, and that they are really specialized in servicing US clients. The same goes for US investors. If they're working together with a specialized wealth manager who only focuses on US clients, they know that they are working together with someone who has extensive experience in what exactly it is they're looking for. Then also, if you're working with a boutique wealth management company, you will receive much more personalized service and you will usually have much longer lasting relationship than if you're going to a bank directly. If you work together with a larger private bank, there's a lot of fluctuation within the teams there. People get promoted, people get fired, people change jobs. But if you're working with a management-owned small company, you have access to the whole team, you have access to the owners of the company, and you know that the people who are working there will probably be there for the decades or at least several years to come. Then another benefit of an independent asset manager or wealth manager is the independence, and that they don't have any conflicts of interest. And if they do for any reason have a conflict of interest, they will have to disclose that to you. So if you're working directly with the bank, chances are that the bank will receive money if they sell you their own in-house funds and financial products. That is completely taken away if you work together, if you're working together with a wealth manager, because they, if they're independent, only take money from you as the client. They don't take any retrocessions, they don't take any kickbacks. So you know that they make decisions that are in your personal best interest, and that they are not making any decisions that are jeopardizing the profitability of your account. And then lastly, working together with a smaller team ensures that you get customized solutions, that you receive more flexibility and an entrepreneurial mindset. So you work together with people who are solutions oriented and who want and emphasize to be helping you and not to make things more difficult for you through bureaucracy or administrative matters. So how does the setup work? I like to show it as a triangle, as you can see here on the slide. There's three main parties. There's, of course, you as the client, and then there's the custodian bank, that's the private bank that holds the asset. And then there's the wealth manager or asset manager who manages then the account. And all three parties have agreements with each other. So usually, especially in Switzerland, the wealth managers have different contracts with different private banks. You're free to choose the bank that best suits your personal situation and your needs. And the wealth manager then helps you set up a bank account in your name or the name of your trust, your individual retirement account, the LLC, whatever it may be. And once the account is set up, you then give a limited power of attorney to the wealth manager on behalf of this specific account that you have opened up together. So the limited power of attorney will enable the wealth manager to access information to the account. They will be able to execute on an investment strategy that you have determined together. They can make trades, that they can receive statements. They can also deduct the management fee, but they cannot take out any other money from the account. So how does the process work? It is definitely doable, and since you're working with a wealth manager, this person will help you from the beginning to the end. They will walk you through all the steps, and they will help you where help is needed. But it's still important to know that it is usually quite a big decision for people to make, to move money outside of their home country, and it does take some time. That's just something that's important to be aware of. So it starts with the preparation phase, where you should really reflect and think about why you would like to move money offshore, what your specific needs are, what your concerns are, and what exactly it is you're looking for. You should then do some due diligence that is most easily done over Google. Just look for people who offer the kind of services that you're looking for, look for different banks and wealth managers, and compare and contrast, see where you feel that you'd be treated best. And then maybe pick one or two and set up a initial telephone conversation or a Zoom meeting, reach out to them, ask all your questions, and then compare the impressions you got from the one or two people that you connected with. See if you feel that you can trust those people, see if you feel that you can build a long-term relationship with them. And then once you have decided to move forward, really define your needs, talk to the partner that you chose about the kind of services you're looking for, think about the kind of account you would like to have, think about the bank you would like to work together with. This is usually also determined during a conversation with your wealth manager, where they will walk you through the whole thinking process, and they will help you figure out what exactly it is that would suit you best. And then you get started. So in the beginning, the wealth manager will need some preliminary information about you. Usually that's a passport copy, some background on your financial, your personal situation, some information about the whole the whole situation, what you're trying to accomplish, and then they will go to the bank with this information and put together an account opening set. You will read through the whole set, you will sign everything, you will return the documentation, and then once the bank has received all the completed documents, they will start opening up the bank account. That is usually done within a couple of days. And then once the bank account is open, you will be informed about the wire instructions, so they will send you all the information you need to transfer the money to your newly opened account. Once the money has been arrived by the bank, once the account has been funded, you will most likely set up another phone call or video conference with the wealth manager and really talk about the initial investment, redefine the investment strategy. And then once the money has been invested, you should receive ongoing communication from the wealth manager. So you should receive bank statements, market reports, telephone calls. And here again, it's important that you talk with your wealth manager about your needs, what exactly you expect, and that this has all been clarified beforehand so that there are no misunderstandings. So how to choose your asset manager or wealth manager? As I mentioned, the whole process starts with you doing your due diligence. And it definitely is important that you ask all the questions you have in the beginning, just to make sure that you really understand what's happening and that you really understand if this is a step that makes sense for you. Here are some questions that you might want to think about discussing. It's important to know that a lot of wealth managers already have a lot of information about themselves on their website. So you might find a lot of information about your question there already, but if your questions aren't answered there, make sure to ask them in a personal conversation. So topics you should cover are the regulations of the company. You should talk about the academic and professional credentials of the people who are managing your money. You should talk about the fee structure. You should talk about the investment strategy of the fund. You should talk about the communication, how often you can expect to hear from them, over which channel they communicate. And one important point that's often forgotten when you start working with a wealth manager is talking about how fast you can close the account and how fast you can take the money back to your home country if need be. I have put together on a blog post on our website a whole list of questions you can ask. I've put together 50 questions where you can pick and choose whatever interests you most. As I mentioned, I will link to that at the end of my presentation under the further resources, but it definitely makes sense to think about what kind of questions you want to have answered before you start working together with your wealth manager. Now, a couple of words about us. As was already mentioned in the introduction by Alexander, I'm the managing partner of WHVP. We are a Swiss-based wealth management company. We are specialized in serving US clients, obviously. We have been in business since 1991 and have worked with American clients since the very beginning. And since 2011, we are also registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US. Our core team are 3 relationship managers, which you can see here on the slides together with me, Urs and Julia. And then we also have Daniel, who's our compliance officer, who makes sure that we adhere to all the rules and regulations, not only in a Swiss legal framework, but also in a US legal framework. And we have a lot more information about our company and what we do on our website. So if you're interested in learning more, I invite you to check that out. The kind of services we offer, we're very much specialized in wealth management, but we have 3 different service levels. So our first service level is our permanent portfolio, where we put together a standardized portfolio with a moderate level of risk taking. We offer this kind of service together with a custodian bank in Austria. The minimum investment size there is $250,000 US. Then the next level is our asset management service, where we put together a tailor-made investment strategy. You can select any custodian bank from our list that you feel would suit you best. The options there are in Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and Austria. And then our third service, the minimum investment size for that service is $500,000 US. And then the third level is our concierge level. There you get everything that you would get with our regular asset management mandate. But additionally to that, you also receive several hours of concierge service and a personal visit to the destination of your choice every year. The minimum investment size there is $1 million. Again, we have more information on all those 3 kinds of services, the fees and everything else relating to that on our website. So a few words about the partner banks that we work together with. So it's very important to us that we work together with private banks. It is important to us that we work together with banks that have a good understanding of US clients. And it is important to us that we work together with very safe banks that have very good liquidity ratios. The 4 banks are in alphabetical order are Bank Minter, Kaiser Partner, Vontobel, and Wiener Privatbank. As I mentioned, those 4 banks are in 3 different jurisdictions. So you can have the custodian bank either here in Switzerland, where we are based, in Liechtenstein, our neighboring country, or Austria, another neighboring country of ours. Which bank best suits your personal needs is usually determined in one of the first conversations, where we talk a little bit more about what each bank has to offer, what the advantages and disadvantages of the banks are, and what kind of pricing they offer. A few words about our investment approach. So every wealth manager is different. And of course, we put together individualized and tailor-made investment strategies, but there's still an overall investment philosophy that we have. So generally speaking, we are quite a conservative wealth manager. Our goal is a long-term oriented capital preservation strategy. So we are not day traders. We don't do any gambling. We don't do any very complex products. We usually only invest in products that our clients understand, that they are familiar with and they are comfortable with. One important note is that we completely exclude the US stock market and the US dollar from our portfolios. So this way we can ensure that we really put together a counterbalance to the portfolios our clients already have in the US. And then we also mainly make direct investments into stocks, bonds, precious metals, and also foreign currencies. So those are the 4 main asset classes that we use. And then another benefit is we always keep in mind US tax considerations when we make investment decisions. So we are not US tax specialists, but we do keep the rules and regulations in mind, and we make sure that our investments do not yield in any negative tax consequences where possible. Now to the further resources that I've mentioned. There's 3 main resources that I wanted to mention. The first one is our blog. You can find that on our website, WHVP.ch, under Insights. There you can find a lot of information about how to do your due diligence on wealth managers. You can find information on our current market outlooks. You find information about company news. You can find information about Switzerland, what it makes a good financial jurisdiction. So there's a lot to uncover there. Then we have our podcast, which you can find on anchor.fm/WHVP. There we interview a guest approximately every month. We usually talk to people in the industry who offer complementary services to ours. Usually we have US listeners in mind. So we talk about a variety of topics. Our last conversation was about Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrencies in general. But we have also talked about residency by investment programs. We have talked about taxes. We talk about various different topics. So make sure to check that out as well if that's something that appeals to you. And then lastly, we have our newsletter that goes out every 6 weeks, where we talk in depth about our market outlook, what is happening here in Switzerland and Europe, and some investment considerations from our side. If you're interested in receiving this free newsletter, just send an email at info@whvp.ch. Just put newsletter in the email, and we'll make sure to include you on our list. So that was it from my side. As I mentioned in the beginning, I just gave a very broad overview over what it is that we're doing, a very broad overview over what offshore banking is and how it might benefit you. If you are interested in learning more about any of the things that I just mentioned, feel free to reach out to me by email. My email address is jv@whvp.ch, or as mentioned several times before, check out our website. You should find a lot of information about what we do and what offshore banking is there. So I'm happy to open the floor to questions now. If you have anything that you would like to hear more about or anything that was unclear, then feel free to let me know.
Thank you very much, Jimmy. It was a really interesting presentation, and I have already received several questions to you.
Okay.
So first of all, I would say from my side, I have, as I mentioned before, I have one partner, Wes colleague, based in Washington, D.C., and during the discussion with him, it was really mentioned that it's really difficult to open a bank account in Europe for one US citizen. And it's a big point that you have already several banks on your side which assist to open such accounts for your clients. I have also some questions. So, for example, Alex asked, so for investment options in Switzerland, components of a diversified portfolio, how to build. So maybe you can give us a little bit more information about your strategy on this way. So you mentioned already that you have you diversify your portfolio, so investor or your client can invest in different types of assets, so in the precious metals, in bonds, and several others. But what is your best strategy? I would say so.
Okay, thank you so much, Alex. Yeah, I mean, you're right. A lot of people are not aware of the option that there is. Opening up a bank account in Europe can seem very daunting, and there has been a time where it was rather difficult. But if you have contacts to the people who are specialized in that kind of business, then it's definitely doable and possible. And there's a lot of people who do it, especially during uncertain times as we're facing them right now. In terms of the asset strategy of our, the investment strategy of our company, it's always a bit difficult to answer that in specific details because it very much depends on the personal situation of the client, on the risk tolerance. I can give some more general information. So for example, we focus mainly on the Swiss and European stock market because we have best access to research and the best contacts here just due to geographical proximity. But of course, we also do other markets. So the only thing that we completely exclude is the US market. So we also have some Canadian investments, for example, some investments in Australia. Generally speaking, we like larger, stable and dividend paying companies because most of our clients are a bit older. Most of them are towards the end of their career or the beginning of retirement. So they are more looking towards enjoying the wealth that they have accumulated and just preserving it and not speculating anything away. And then of course, gold and silver is also something that is very popular amongst a lot of our clients. So we have opportunities there as well. We can buy ounces, but we can also have physical precious metals depending on the preference of the clients. And then of course, fixed income is a bit of a tricky topic at the moment. That's something that has played less of an important role over the past couple of months, but it's something that we always keep an eye out to look for and see if we find any interesting investment opportunities there as well. I hope that gives you a bit of a better understanding of what we do.
Okay, thank you so much. So I have another question from Nika. She asks, what benefits and advantages does private banking offer? So you have a background in Credit Suisse. You can say, okay, from a bank side, but also from asset management, external asset management side, what kind of benefits, advantages this private banking can offer?
Yeah, I mean, I've already talked a bit about what like offshore private banking can offer. I think Swiss private banks are extremely safe and stable. So this is one of the biggest advantages, is just having a really reliable and experienced partner at your side. I think the benefits of a private bank are best utilized if you work together with an offshore wealth manager. And I'm not just saying that because I am an offshore wealth manager. I say it because I've seen both sides. So I've worked for a private bank, I've worked for Credit Suisse, and I've also worked now for an independent asset manager. And I think it is just a bit of a tricky situation with the banks having incentives of selling their own in-house products. So I think that is a rather big disadvantage that people have to keep in mind when working together with a private bank. But if you have a local partner who can help you navigate the investment side, then private banks in Europe have a vast variety of benefits, most notably the security and safety.
Okay, maybe one more question from my side. So we see in our practice quite interesting trend in investment in cryptocurrencies. What is your position on this way?
Yes, our favorite topic. That's something that comes up time and time again. Personally, I think it's an extremely interesting technology. It's something that we watch closely. I think it will stay relevant, but from our side, it's not necessarily something that we consider in our investment strategy at the moment, just because it's way too speculative for us. There's no way of determining the fair value. It is purely driven by hope and fear and greed. And that's not the way we put together our portfolios. But for private investors who are interested in observing the market, it's definitely going to change the way we do business and we do finances. And as I mentioned, I just had a very in-depth conversation with a Bitcoin and cryptocurrency expert a couple of days ago. And you can find this conversation in our podcast, which is called Swiss Asset Management Talk. And there we talk for like half an hour on all the benefits and risks and the future potential of Bitcoin. So it's definitely something that's very interesting to watch and very interesting to talk about.
Yeah, sure, definitely. But we see in Switzerland quite interesting trend that a lot of banks try to follow this trend, try to open some departments with special responsibility. Maybe you have more experience with combining with these banks in Switzerland. Maybe you can see from bank side. What is the main idea of Swiss banks to open such departments or to open to give the opportunity for the clients to invest in such products?
Yeah, I think that the Swiss banks are, because they are so, they have been in the business for so long and they're rather large and experienced, they're not always so quick to adapt. So while Switzerland is an extremely innovative country and we have the crypto valley in Zug, so Switzerland is at the forefront of the whole cryptocurrency development, but the Swiss banks have taken their time to really get into the market. But now in recent weeks, we have seen more and more traction in this area, because I think with everything that's been happening since the beginning of this new year, cryptocurrencies just have established their role as, I think most people agree that cryptocurrencies in some way, shape or form are here to stay. So the banks don't have any other way as to adapt to that and start offering services and products for clients, because they will have to stay afloat. But I think they were a bit slow to adapt, because blockchain and cryptocurrencies can at some point maybe make of some of their own services obsolete. So they probably are a bit hesitant about that. But I mean, as I mentioned before, I'm not working for a private bank, so I don't have all the inside scoop on the strategies of Swiss private banks. But I think there's a lot happening in this space. And if you look at Switzerland as a whole, the country is definitely going to be on the forefront of the development.
Okay, thank you very much, Jamie. It was very interesting.
My pleasure. Thank you.